Good morning. Welcome to 10 Health and Fitness Instagram TV. I'm going to wait for a few people to jump on and then we'll get moving. So make sure you've got your mat ready. I've got my softball or my overball here today. Hello, welcome. Hi guys. If you don't have a softball or an overball, not a problem. Grab a pillow for me, a folded pillow. Hey, how are we doing? Hi Cami, hey Jane. Hi guys, welcome. This will be suitable for all levels. As always guys, if you do have an injury, make sure you follow the advice of your medical professional. I'm going to give modifications, progressions and regressions throughout so that you can work at your own level. So you're just going to need yourself, your mat, something to drink, make sure you've got a bit of space to move in, and something, either a softball, one of these, or a pillow will be absolutely fine. Nice thick pillow folded over. Alright guys, we'll get moving in just a moment. If we got in there, good to you, perfect. Just see if a couple more want to join on, but we're going to start in our kneeling position. Hey, welcome. So anyone who hasn't worked with me before, guys, my name is Leah. I'm the senior trainer here at 10 Health and Fitness. I am teaching out of St. James and City Studios at the moment. Now you're going to start with your ball in your hands in front of you. Make sure you've got some room either side. I want you to grow out of the crown of your head up towards the ceiling. At the same time, the bottom of your spine from your tailbone is going to grow down towards the floor so that you've got that two-way stretching happening to create space between each of those vertebrae. Now I want you to keep your pelvis really still so it's not allowed to rotate. We're going to twist through our spine so that the rib cage is rotating as I take my ball or my pillow out to the side. And can do this without your prop if you prefer for this one. We're going to take a nice deep breath in as we twist. And as we breathe out, we're going to come back to center. And I'm going to take this to the second side. Now the arm that is in the center is going to stay directly in front of the shoulder. When chest is rotating, we're being very careful not to lean backwards. So we're going to keep our rib cage stacked on top of the pelvis. We want to think about the shoulders as well. We don't want those shoulders coming up by our ears. Think of drawing both shoulder blades down towards their back pockets as you open out the chest, widen the collarbone to the side, following the hand with the eye line. So mobilizing our spine through rotation. As you twist, start to think about your deep core engagement. So we exhale, we lift the pelvic floor up into the body. We draw the belly button back towards the spine. And we knit the front of the rib cage together. So we're avoiding getting this extension and rib cage flare. Maintaining our neutral. This is going to be the last one here. Opening out to the side. Nice wide collarbone. And back to center. We're going to rest that prop, if you haven't already, down on the mat in front of you. Still in my high kneeling position, crown of the head reaching up to the ceiling. I'm going to turn my palms forwards and start to think about my shoulder retraction. Fingertips are going to pull down. I'm going to imagine that I was brushing the fingertips along the floor as I start to slide my shoulder blades together in my upper back. They meet in the middle, and then I'm going to inhale, return. So I'm reaching the fingertips to the floor as I slide the shoulder blades to meet the spine. And again, we don't want any movement through the rib cage and through the back. So it's just those scapula, those shoulder blades moving together and down and returning. So the spine itself isn't moving. We're going to use those deep core muscles to stabilize that. So that as you exhale and retract the shoulders, the pelvic floor lifts up to meet the belly button that's drawing back towards the spine. Inhale, return, but keep reaching the fingertips down towards the floor. It's a really good one for our posture, especially those that are spending a lot of time hunched over in rounded positions at the moment. We're countering that here by stretching through the chest muscles, contracting and starting to strengthen through rhomboids, trucks in the upper back there. Try not to tense through these upper tracts here. We want to keep those turned off by reaching down. We're going to do just 2 more here. And then once you've done this second one, Release the arms and give the shoulders a little roll out. I'm going to place my prop just to the side, out of the way. I'm going to come back into those shoulder retractions, at this time in a prone position. So I'm walking the hands and knees away to come down onto my front on the mat. Once there, I'm going to take the hands to begin with by my sides, palms forward, so palms into the floor just as before. And I'm going to retract my shoulders the same way we did when we were kneeling, drawing the shoulder blades together, reaching the fingertips down towards my feet. Inhale, lower down. Just going to move that a little up. Exhale. Now don't forget that deep core engagement, that still applies. Pelvic floors lifting up into the body. Belly buttons lifting up off of the mat. Imagine you've got a little grip under your belly button that you can't squash. We're going to inhale, lower. Now I don't want my shoulders up by our ears, so all the time thinking about reaching the fingertips towards the feet. Now if that's feeling okay, we can start to add in a little bit of thoracic extension. Again, countering those rounded back positions. So this time, as we reach the fingers down towards the toes, I'm going to start to widen my collarbone even more and raise my upper body, my chest, up off of the mat, still squeezing the shoulder blades together and still looking at the mat as if you've got a little pocket mirror under your nose. And slowly down. We're going to engage the glutes to stabilize the pelvis. We don't want the bum stuck up in the air. Think of slightly tucking your tailbone. Don't squash that grape under your belly button. Stretch the chest as you create that crease in the back of your t-shirt between your shoulder blades. If you're feeling okay with that, guys, if you're ready for a little bit of a progression, I'm going to take my ball or my pillow and I'm going to take it out in front of me. Slight softness through the elbows. Now those shoulder blades are still going to draw down towards the tailbone as they squeeze together, and I raise the upper back and then slowly back down again. Pelvic floor, belly button, engage those abdominals. We're not here for very much longer, guys. We're going to do about another 20 seconds and then a little hold on the end if you can manage it. If it's feeling a little bit much with your prop, try it with the arms extended out in a V. If you want to, bring the arms back by your sides, palms down, focus on that shoulder retraction movement. So we all should be feeling this through the upper back, those muscles between the shoulder blades. We're making sure we've never got our shoulders up by our ears. Keep reaching through those fingertips or sliding those shoulder blades down towards your back pockets. Finish the one that you're on. If you feel like you can, we're going to come up and hold on the next one. Maybe holding that prop, soft elbows, wide collarbone, raising up into your spine extension, scooping the abs, keep the glutes on and breathe here for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Lowering down. Place the hands by the sides of your chest and press the bum back to the heels into your shell stretch. Nice deep breathing here, filling up the back of the lungs, inflating and deflating the ribs. As you exhale, emptying completely. Allow the pelvis to sink towards the heels. Walking the hands to the knees, we're going to roll the body up so that the head is the last thing to lift. Restacking one vertebra at a time. At the top, give the shoulders a little roll out. Now we're going to come back to those spine twists and rotations we were practicing earlier, adding a little bit more abdominal loading now by taking this in a half roll back. So if you've got your pillow or your ball, take that for me now. Take it out in front of you. I'm sitting onto both sit bones nice and equally. You can play with the distance of the feet. I want you to be able to start up as tall as you can. Nice long spine, growing out through the crown of the head. Soften the elbows, so we've still got a nice wide collarbone, drawing those shoulder blades to our back pockets. From here, inhale, grow. Exhale, tuck your tail underneath, so we're imprinting the pelvis. Lift your pelvic floor up into the body away from the mat. Draw the belly button back to the spine, so we're looking for this scooped out position of the abdominals. When you get to a point where the feet want to lift up, don't let them, keep them down. That's your bite point, so it actually be a bit shaky. We're not letting them bulge out and stick out in the middle. From here, I'm going to take my rotation. This time I'm going to keep my prop in front of me. I'm going to open out. Again, if you prefer not to use your prop, that's fine for this one. Opening out and reaching low with my little fingers. So I don't want this shoulder position. Reaching out and wide. Back to center. Exhale, rotate. Knees stay still. There should be no movement through the lower body. We're going to come up in the middle. Inhale, grow. Exhale, roll. Now as we take these rotations, we want to try and stay equally weighted through both sit bones so that we're not getting a rock from hip to hip. You can normally tell if you're doing that by the position of the knees. So really trying to keep those thighs tracking parallel, knees directly to the ceiling the whole way through. I'm going to give you some progression options if you'd like them. The next time you rotate, take your prop with you if you're using it. Now the opposite leg can extend away off the floor. You've still got to keep your tucked tail, your scooped abs. We come back to center, equally weighted through the sit bones as you do the same thing on the second side. And up through the middle. So that's just slightly more intermediate variation. There is a slightly more advanced variation. I'm sure you can probably guess what this one is. Taking both legs together at the same time. So just work at the level that is right for you guys. We want to be challenging those tummy muscles, but we don't want to be losing our form. So we've got to be making sure that we can maintain our rib to hip connection at the bottom of this movement so that we're never finding our body in this arched position. We don't want to be feeling that pressure into the back. So that advanced variation coming down. Bring yourself onto your tiptoes. Now as you rotate, legs extend, back to center, make sure you're breathing. And coming up through the middle. Good. So what if that's right for you today? Maybe single leg, maybe double leg, or maybe keeping those feet flat on the floor. If you need a reset, have a second. Reach over into that butterfly stretch, give the head a little shake, have a moment to breathe, reset when you're ready. We're going to do this for around another 15 seconds. So let's do 2 more sets of those. So one each side, twice over, and then we'll have a reset and we'll go for 10-second holds each side. So really working here on our deep core muscle, our deep transverse abs. Make sure the pelvic floor is engaged, make sure you can feel those lower abs. Sometimes it can help to imagine these hip bones at the front as if they're magnets, pulling towards each other, engaging that area, not letting our belly button stick out, needle and thread, drawing that belly button back towards the spine. And of course working on our obliques, strengthening the muscles that help us to rotate safely. Finish the one that you're on. We're going to come back to center. Once we're there, have a second. Make sure those shoulders are nice and relaxed. We're going to grow tall on your inhale. Exhale, rolling it back. Curl that tailbone under, pelvic floor and belly button. We're going to take a rotation. Option to do 1 or 2 feet or have them both on the floor. Once you're there, breathing for 10, 9, 8. Keep scooping the abs for 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. We're going to come through the middle. Make sure we've got a nice open chest. Make sure that tailbone's tucked. Scoop those abs, maybe 1 or 2 legs. Breathe 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Through the middle. Keep the ribs tucked in. Lead with the fingers. Lovely. Soles of the feet together, knees wide. We're going to reach up and over. And then rest the head, rest the elbows, rest the hands. Release the shoulders. We're going to stay here for about 20 seconds. Focus on your breathing. Inhale, inflate the back of the ribs. Exhale, empty completely. Try and let the knees release. Let the head go. Give it a little shake. Make sure we're not holding the neck up. And then slowly rolling back up so that the head is the last thing to lift. Give the shoulders a little roll out. We're going to come into a little bit of side lying. So I want you to get your folded pillow or your ball and put it on the inside of your ankles. Right onto the inside there. I'm going to walk my bottom arm away until I'm lying onto it, like a cushion. Adjust that a little bit. Once we are there, we're going to place our top hand underneath our head, our bottom hand just in front of our belly button. We're going to reach away from our toes, so we've got nice stretched knees. And I want you to really squeeze your bum. We're going to slightly tuck our tail in this position. And I want you to imagine that little grape from earlier underneath the bottom side of your waist. So we're not going to push our waist down into the mat. Stretching both knees. As you exhale, you're going to raise your prop just off of the mat and back down. Exhale, pelvic floor, belly button, ribs knitted. We hold that rib to hip connection and then we slowly come down. Good. We don't want to cheat by bending that bottom knee. So really stretch away through the toes. We're keeping the hips stacked. So top hip stacked on top of the bottom one. Should be able to balance a glass of water on there. We're still not squashing the underneath side of the waist down into the mat. Good. You might want to have a go at taking the arm off, seeing if you can do this without the arm to support. Next progression, if anyone needs it, we're going to add in a little bit of oblique work again, this time in some lateral flexion. So as you raise the legs, we're going to slide the rib, top rib towards the top hip and reach the fingers to the ankle. Slowly lowering everything back down at the same time. So okay guys, just work at the level that is right for you today. You're more than welcome to keep that hand on the floor if you need to. And we want to try and make sure that we're not leading up with our head and creating lots of tension through the neck. So thinking of moving from here, side of the rib cage here, drawing down to meet the side of the hip on the top there. So that's where the movement is coming from. The head is just raised as a result. We're going to reach through the fingertips towards the toes. Keep reaching through the toes and stretching the knees as well. We're about halfway there on these, so we're going to do these for about another 30 seconds. Make sure you're still squeezing your bum as you lift up. Still thinking of that slight tail tuck and keeping that hip stacked on top of the bottom one. Working on a lateral chain here. Exhale to raise. Inhale to lower. Squeezing on that prop, so squeezing on your pillow or ball. Ankles squeeze together, so we've got our activation through the inner thighs as well. Working on our glute med muscles on this top side, strengthening, stabilizing the hips and this whole lumbo-pelvic girdle with that oblique engagement as well. We've got about 20 seconds left. Keep squeezing those glutes tight. In about 10 seconds time, we're going to go for a hold if you can manage it. Remember, if you want to just work on the legs, that's fine. If you want to bring the hand down to support, that's fine as well. Just work where you're at today. Finish this one that you're on. The next one we do, we'll come up and hold. So holding this next one. Scoop the abs, squeeze the glutes, reaching through the fingertips if you're able to, and breathing here for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and coming slowly down. We're going to get rid of our ball or pillow for a moment, and we're going to come into a little side bend stretch. Mermaid legs. So your top leg is going to bend back behind you. Your bottom leg is going to bend in underneath you. And I'm going to walk my hands up to press myself to a seated position. Once there, see if you can get that sit bone down into the mat. Pop the opposite hand down onto the mat so that we're reaching away from our legs. Pressing those hips down, breathing into that space. So we're creating length through these muscles that we were just shortening and contracting. Just a little counter stretch. And then slowly unraveling all the way Back and through, give the shoulders a little roll, and we're going to set up onto the second side once you're ready. So taking your prop, we're going to pop it on the inside of the ankles, just as we did before, holding onto that prop as we walk the hands away and extend the legs out along the mat. We start with our hand just gently placed in front of our belly button. Hips are stacked, tail is slightly tucked, squeeze the glutes. We're going to raise through the legs on our exhale, stretching out all the way through the toes, stretch knees, inhale lower, and exhale raise. As we exhale raise, pelvic floor, belly button and ribs, find that rib to hip connection, balancing our glass of water on the top hip. If this is sore on your hip bone, by the way, do feel free to cushion it if your mat is a little thin, so you can have another cushion just popped under that top hip if needed. Your next progression, as you remember, is the arm coming onto the side of the body, reaching through the fingertips towards the toes. So we're taking away that anchor, that support point, challenging our stability. Make sure that we're not crushing our underneath side of the waist into the mat. We want to stay lifted through that underneath side. Your next progression, if you'd like it, reaching through the fingertips as you slide the rib towards the hip, contracting through the side of the abs here, and then slowly coming down. Still that same deep core engagement as well, so pelvic floor lifting, belly button drawing back to meet it, ribs still knitting through the front there, so there's no arching in the back. Keep that little bit of a tail tuck, glutes squeezing tight, stretching out through the toes and knees. Do just work with the variation that is right for you today, guys. So we're working here on our hips, stabilize the muscles around the outside of the hip, working on our inner thighs as we squeeze on that ball, working on our obliques here as we reach up and through, not forgetting that underneath side as well, lifting off of our grate. We're about halfway there, so we've got about 30 seconds left. You can pop the hand back down if you need to. Try not to bend the knees though, keep stretching out through those legs, growing longer all the way through the body, so whole body really is engaged here. Do be careful as you come up that you don't lead with the head. We don't want to be creating that tension in the neck. We lead with the rib cage, the head is lifted as a result. We've got 20 seconds left, guys. Keep that going at your own pace. Remember to breathe, remember to keep those abdominals engaging every single time, making sure that we don't start to feel it in our lower back by sticking our bum and ribs out. If you can, in about 5 seconds time, we're going to go for a hold. So holding at the top of that movement, whichever variation you feel is right for you today. Finish the one you're on, and we're going to come into that hold now. Stretching through the knees, reaching through the fingertips. If you can, scoop the abs, squeeze the glutes, keep breathing for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Lovely, bringing it down. Pop that ball or cushion out of the way for the moment. Top leg is going to come back behind us in that bent position. Bottom leg is going to bend out in front of us. We press ourselves up with the hands into our mermaid position to take a side bend, up and over. Sending both sit bones down into the mat, keeping the shoulder away from the ear on the supporting side, soft elbow. And just nice deep breathing into this space. Use the breath to expand that stretch. 2 more breaths here. And then slowly unwind. Give the shoulders a little roll. You're going to take your ball or cushion, make sure if you've got that pillow it's folded over, to lie down onto the back for some glute bridges. That prop is going to go on the inside of your thighs, just a fleshy part there next to the knees. Feet are about halfway into the bum and they're hip distance apart. We're going to start with our hands down by our sides on the mat, but make sure not too tight. I don't want your shoulders raised up off of the mat. We want a nice wide collarbone with those shoulders released down into the floor. We're going to inhale, prepare. And then as you exhale, pelvic floor draws up as you tuck the tail underneath, leading with the pubic bone up. We start to raise the hips, hold by that pubic bone, peeling one vertebra at a time in sequence off of that mat, Pressing the heels equally into the floor as we stretch those hip flexors at the top, big glute squeeze. Inhale, prepare, and then exhale, we start to roll down, leading from top to bottom of the spine. So as if you're hanging from the pubic bone, keep those hips high for as long as you can. We want to make sure we don't miss any little articulations out on the way down. So you feel each little bone bit of the spine touch the mat, one at a time in sequence, moving independently. Inhale at the bottom. Now this time really think about that squeeze on the ball. Squeeze it as tight as you can as you move up and down. Try not to miss out, especially that kind of bottom rib section and your mid-spine. Try not to miss any vertebra out. We want to really be creating space between each articulation, thinking about our spinal mobility. Are you still squeezing that ball as tight as you can as well? Challenging those inner thighs as well as our glutes here. Do try and really press the hips up at the top so we get that lovely stretch through the hip flexors. Pushing from the hips though, not the ribs. We're not looking for that arched spine position. If you're feeling stable, take the arms to shoulder drop. And then the next time you roll to the top, you can hold it there. Squeeze really tight on your out breath. Inhale, slightly release. Exhale, squeeze. Inhale, release. Do that 5 times before you roll back down again. Five squeezes at the top. Using your breath. Keep tucking that tail, leading up with the pubic bone. So pubic bone is always higher than hip bones as you're moving both up and down. Last one, we're going to stay at the top. We're going to do quick pulses on the ball, making sure we're using both thighs. Both feet are equally weighted into the floor. Keep that pulse going, don't stop. Remember to breathe, hips high for another 20 seconds. Keep going, both legs equally for another 10. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Rolling down, lovely. Take your prop out just for a moment. Hug those knees in. Have a little rock. We've got one exercise left to do. And then we'll have a little stretch. So I want you to place your prop on the inside of your heels. Now note that the toes and the knees are pointed out to the side. So if I show you this way for a moment, just to make sure you can see properly. We're not looking for this parallel position today. We're looking for this turned out position and toes pulled down towards the floor. Once you are there, round. We're going to keep the head on the floor for the moment, but we're going to take a frog press. If you need to put your hands behind your head, you can. Otherwise, arms down by our sides. And we're going to start going straight up to the ceiling, or as high as you can go with the legs, without crushing your lower back into the floor. So we want the pubic bone the same height as the hips. If you had a little grape under your lower back, it would be held in place, but it wouldn't get squashed. Now, this might mean that you've got a bit of a bend in the knees already. That's absolutely fine. We're going to bend them a little bit more. Now, the knees are going to go out to the sides as if they're being pulled by the kneecaps on strings to opposite sides of the room. I'm opening the hips without allowing the thighs to come any closer to my body. So thighs can't come any closer than hip bones. You're going to exhale, press. Now, as you exhale, press, pelvic floor, belly button scooping down, ribs knitted. We maintain our rib to hip connection. Keep sending. You're trying not to drop the ball, is what I was about to say. Keep sending your toes and knees wide. So this means that you need to press the heels together into that ball and activate the inner thighs as you push away. Still keeping those thigh bones rotated out to the sides. Now, if you're feeling stable through the spine, you might want to start to take the legs a little bit lower. It's going to challenge your abdominals a little bit more. Still rotating the legs out to the sides. Still squeezing the glutes as you press away. Try and get your knees as if they're trying to touch in the middle whilst pointing out away from each other. Ankles pressing in to that ball. Now, if you'd like a bit of a progression, bringing the arms by the sides, sliding the ribs to the hip bones so that you're in your curl up. Remembering not to bulge the abs up. We want to be drawing that belly button down towards the floor, still rotating the thighs outwards. We're almost there, guys. We've got about 30 seconds left. Now, if your neck is a little bit sore, as long as you're not pushing on your head, you can place those hands behind, elbows wide, and keeping about an apple size from the chin to the chest. So you're holding that in place rather than forcing the neck down or leaving the weight of the head out behind you. Good. Pulling those ribs to the hip bones if you're working in your curl up or out prep. Now, in about 10 seconds time, we're going to take a hold if you can. Scooping those abs, squeezing that ball. Thighs should be burning now as well as those tummy muscles. Draw it in. Press away, halfway. We're going to do a little pulse in and out for the last 10. Tiny movement in and out for 9. Curling up if you can for 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Take that prop out. Rest the head. Soles of the feet together on the floor and knees out wide. Have a gentle little rock in that butterfly. You can get rid of your pillow or even pop it under your head if you prefer. Or pop it out of the way. Bring the knees to a stop in the middle. You can rest the hands on the top. And just focus on your breathing. 20 more seconds. Let those thighs lengthen out. You can slightly arch the back here to increase the stretch as long as it's comfortable. Try and let those knees release down to the floor. Last 10 seconds. And then slowly bring the knees back together. We're going to roll onto the side and bring ourselves to a seated position. And just take a moment to roll those shoulders, sitting tall, all the way. Back and down, feel that nice full range, feel that length across the chest. Just for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. We're all done, guys. Really well done. Thank you very much for joining me. I will pop this onto the IGTV, of course, so you can go back and watch it if you wanted to do it again or if you missed any today. In the meantime, guys, please do feel free to let us know if you have any questions or anything I can help with. You can contact us on DM at 10, or you can contact me directly on my tag, and I'll post that with the video at the same time. Thank you, guys.